Monday to you today. I hope everyone is doing well and getting off to a great start in your week. It's wonderful to be here today with Altenew, and I am ready to have a really nice time for the next hour or so that we will be together and we can hang out and take a look at the poppy arrangement stamp set. So that's what I've got for us today. Just checking all of our various cameras and lights and everything. Hi, Roxy. Hi, Avril. Great to see you too. Hi, Tracy. Lovely to see you as well, or to see you, I guess I should say. Cece, good evening to you as well, or good morning, depending on where folks are in the world. So just very, very glad to have everyone joining us. So thank you so much. Avril, you're asking, how's all in Hamburg? I'll tell you, it's cold. It's been really cold lately, and this morning we had black ice on the sidewalks, which made getting to school and the supermarket and all the various places a little bit, a little bit dangerous. But we're warming up, so now we have rain on top of the ice, which is making things even more exciting. Patricia is in Washington State, a beautiful state close to my home state of Oregon. And it's great to see everyone else, Debbie and Rosie and Sue. Lovely to see you too. Avril, good and cold in Cork here too. Yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine we're kind of on the same the same wavelength, I think. Yeah, Connecticut was lovely for Sue. I'm glad, very glad to hear that. Before I forget, I just want to pop in with a quick reminder. Most of you already know, if you do share tonight's live while we are live, you can be in for a $15 gift certificate to the Altenew store. So be sure while you're watching us today, just pop in the comments that you shared and let us know how you shared. And then at the end of the live, our lovely moderator will pull a name at random and you could be a winner. Sue, I think you were a winner quite recently. So congratulations. I think I saw that. All righty, everyone. Great to see everyone popping in. Sounds like windy, cold. Yeah, it's the winter season, I'm afraid, unless you're in, I don't know, someplace sunny and tropical, which would have been nice this morning. But nevertheless, we'll press on. Cold weather makes for good crafting weather for inside. So today I have the poppy arrangement collection to share with you. And I say collection because it's a couple of different things. So we have a stamp set, nice big stamp set, and this is, again, poppy arrangement. And what you've got here, you've got a large kind of corner treatment area with this big, beautiful blossom. Then you've got two smaller flowers. You can see you've got lots of nice leaves in here and also some sentiments. So the sentiments are like, trust the journey, you've got this, just believe in yourself. So it's a nice set, I think, for an encouragement card or congratulations card as well. They're really nice because they work beautifully with any of your coloring mediums. So as you can see, they're outline stamps, and you can color them in with any of your watercolor pencils, your artist brush markers, and so on. And we'll talk a little bit about that. However, there are also other ways that you can color them. Oh, before I get going on the coloring, there are also, of course, dies to go along. So you've got that nice big floral element, the two smaller ones, and all of the leaves too. So you can create some really nice dimensional motifs. Then to go along with both of these, we have the poppy arrangement stencil set. So it's hard to tell because it's just white, but if I flip this over, you can get a sense. There are 4 stencils in this pack. And when you're looking at them here, it kind of doesn't make sense, but it will make sense when you see that what you'll do is you will stamp, let's see, where am I here? You can stamp the motif and then place one of the stencils on top, use a blending brush and some dye inks, and do some simple layering. Super easy to do, and it creates a really beautiful and layered effect. So 4 stencils in this one set, and that will give you lots of different looks. Then we've got the dies and we've got the stamps themselves. So what I'm going to do is jump right in and share a couple of different ways for us to use the poppy arrangement. The other thing I have to say about the poppy arrangement, poppies have a lot of symbolic meaning, especially for folks in the UK. Also down under, I believe, Anzac Day and Remembrance Day, they often will feature poppies, I believe. I know definitely in the UK. And so there's some nice symbolism, gratitude symbolism in there, but they're also just a really nice. I don't want to say it's a basic flower, but it is such a beautiful open flower that it, I think, just adds a really lovely touch to any kind of card theme, whether it's a birthday, thinking of you, sympathy, get well. Yeah, Tracy says Veterans Day, poppies. Yeah, definitely. So a lot of really nice card themes, I think, that you can do with these. Okay, I am going to change down my camera here so that you can see my slightly messy work surface. You should see what's all around here. It's busy. So let's take a look at our first card. So I've got 4 card projects to share with you today. And I'll try and do as much demonstrating as I possibly can. We may run out of time at the end, but I will show you my finished examples. So I want to start with this card to begin. And this is, again, using that nice large element. So this is all one piece. It's one stamp, and I'm doing the coloring with the stencils and just 2 ink colors. So for this, I'm using Aqualicious, and I am also using Olive. So you can get a little creative with your flower colors on here. So just those 2 colors. I'm not doing any layering. We'll take layering to the next level for our next card project, but I want to show you kind of a quick and easy way to do this. And then we'll also talk about that background there too. Okay, so what I'm going to do is stamp using my Obsidian pigment ink. No surprise there. This is just going to give me such a nice, crisp, clear image. Pop in some cardstock into my MISTI. And I need a fairly large piece of cardstock because this is a pretty substantial stamp size. So as you can see, kind of in proportion to my hands. Now I am going to die cut it, or I did die cut it for the card, the original card. But if you're not going to do that, then of course you do want to figure out your configuration when you're placing this down. But I'm just going to pop it down here because I really want us to focus mostly on the stamping and the coloring. So I'm snugging up my magnets on here so that they're quite close to the design. And pop this in here. And again, just inking this up with my Obsidian black. And you'll see it's a nice, big, beautiful outline, which I love for coloring. So if you wanted to color this with your water brush markers, with your alcohol markers, with your watercolor pencils or your watercolor paints, so many different options here. You can do heat embossing. You can do a lot of different things. Okay. Let's see how we go. So there we are. Really gorgeous. Now I will also say, I always like to mention, just remind folks that a simple black and white floral is sometimes a really effective design. So while we're often talking about coloring your stamps, that's not always what you're limited to. So you can definitely keep in mind that black and white is a gorgeous effect as well. But we're going to color today, of course. Toss this out of the way here. And then I'm going to get out my stencils. Okay, and as I mentioned, there are 4 stencils in this set. They're all labeled Okay, here's a true confession and also my little tip. So you can see my stencils here, and I've written on each of them 1, 2, 3, 4. This is in correspondence with the 1, 2, 3, and 4 that are on the stencil. So they're kind of like you can feel it. They're embossed onto the plastic. But I'm often working late at night. I also don't have the greatest eyesight. So sometimes if I'm not wearing my glasses or my contact lenses, it's a little tricky to find that one. And I will also confess that very often when I get going in my crafting room, sometimes the stencils don't stay like this is how it's supposed to be, but sometimes they get turned over, they're turned on their side. And then I'm forever looking for this leaf element, but I can't find it because I've got the stencil going the wrong way. So what I've done is just written on here with a Sharpie marker 1, 2, 3, 4. And that helps me when crafting late at night or in not so great lighting to go and correspond with the 1s, the 2s, and the 3s and the 4s on my layering guide. So just a little tip for you to keep in mind if you're someone like me who needs a little extra help there sometimes. So what I'm going to do is use number 1, stencil number 1, and this is going to be my main floral grouping. Okay, so it's these flowers, these 3 flowers all together. And I'm going to ink this up with my Aqualicious ink, and I'm going to use my nice big blender brush. Okay, so you can use whatever blender brush you have on hand. I love these guys. They just cover a lot of surface. They're easy to hold and easy to work with. I use them for both. This one is used for both blue and green. So we're going to get some interesting color combinations. So I'm going to pop this down. Now, one thing I want to keep in mind before I start blending away is that if I'm using aqua on my flower, I want to be really careful that I'm not getting it over here, or in these outer areas. So you can mask this off with masking tape if you want to. You can also use Post-it notes or sticky notes, whatever you have on hand. What I like to do is, first of all, secure this down onto my surface. And this is like whether or not I'm going to die cut this or not. It's just a good idea for me to have it secured in place. And then what I do is just take like scraps of recycled paper and I pop these down. They're just going to be down here temporarily. And it's just so that I don't get this ink kind of going everywhere. And I'm going to use some washi tape on hand just to secure this down too. So looks a little bit like Frankenstein here, patching this all together, but it's easier for me to do it this way, I find, than to try and be really, really careful and not get any ink going anywhere else. So I've got this pretty well secured down. And I'm going to take my Aqualicious and ink up my blending brush. And then simply holding this in place with my hand, I'm just going to use a gentle, firm but gentle circular motion here. So you can see that Aqualicious on here. Now I can do a light application. I can go back and add a bit more ink to my blending brush. And I can get a deeper look. I can have it as light or as dark as I want. Okay, but I can still see those beautiful lines of the image on here. So super simple to do. I'm gonna pop this back into its little holder and then set my Aqualicious away. Sue says she has to secure things down too. Scrap paper. This is, I've got a huge stack of scrap paper in my crafting area and I use it and use it and use it. It's just kind of one of my go-to crafting tools for stuff like this. Otherwise, if I try and hold it down in place, sometimes it works, but very often it doesn't. So this is my go-to trick. Okay, And so pop this off. And there you can see I've got my beautiful coloring right on here and only in the areas where I want it to go. So if you're someone who likes to add color to your projects, but maybe you just don't have time to do a full detailed alcohol ink marker or watercolor, this is a really great way to go. Now you can also continue to layer up. But we're not going to do this for this card. We will do it for our next card. And I would also point out, you could die cut this and this would be really lovely as it is. So let's take the leaves as our next go round. So the leaves are also on this stencil number 1. So this was our 3 grouping of the flowers and then our leaves here and here. So again, just need to line this up. There we go. So I'm starting up here with this top one, kind of get that aligned, tack that down, and then see about this bottom leaf. So like so, and like so. Sort of have to scooch it around a little bit. And so this is going to give me these leaves here and this leaf over here. Again, might want to mask off this area. Just to make sure. And again, it's not such a big deal if you're die cutting, but if you're not, you may just want to be a little more careful, depending on what your card design is. Kathy says, I save everything. Me too, Kathy. Me too. I was looking around my craft room earlier today and I was like, oh, I really need to do a declutter. A lot of it I need, but probably some of it I don't. But you're right, you never know. And I will confess to being a crafter who has sometimes gotten rid of things and then realized later that I didn't want to get rid of it or I needed it. I really did need it later. So anyway, yeah, I'm with you. Okay, now for the leaves, I'm going to use olive, which is one of my favorite colors. Now I'm still using this same blender. This is the one that had the Aqualicious on it. So I'm just going to kind of shuffle off any excess color onto, guess what? Another piece of scrap paper here. And then I'm going to add in my olive just right on top of this blending brush. So I have a couple of these blending brushes and I have them not like one for each color, which would be glorious, but also really take up too much room. But I keep them as like, I've got one that's just for reds and oranges, one that's just for yellow, one that's just for blues and greens. So that's what I'm using here. And I do clean them periodically, but you don't have to do it maybe as often as you might think. So you can use a dirty blending brush, unless you're going from, say, a really dark color to yellow or something really light. Okay, get a little bit more ink on here. And here we go. I see a lot of comments about keeping things and sometimes tossing things and wishing that you hadn't. I think this is just the thing of being a crafter. We do tend to end up with lots of things that we maybe forget about sometimes too. I know I'm guilty of doing that. I'll have a certain tool or certain supply, use it a lot and then forget about it, put it on the shelf and forget about it. And then sometimes it's great fun to come back and be like, oh, right, I forgot about all of those, pastels, or for example, that's what I have a drawer full of, or I forgot about that watercolor set or something. And then sometimes it's nice just to be able to pick that up and have another go. Okay, so I've got my green on here, and then when I lift this off, you can see that I've got green in all of those areas too. Now, the one leaf that is not colored is this one up here, and this guy is right up here in our top corner. So I'm going to fit this on here again and pop it in place. And then I definitely want to mask off this area so that I don't go don't go rogue with my blending tool and get some of that green on here. And let's see, there we go. And again, just a little bit of our olive. Okay. And this is just a little guy. Now you can, of course, swap out different colors if you wanted to. So I'm just using the two, but there's nothing to stop you from doing lots of different colors. It's completely up to you, but this is a nice, simple way to do it. And when I pull this off, you can see the perfectly colored flower cluster. And I just think this is so gorgeous and gives you so many different options, because if you were doing this in a traditional red poppy color, that would give you a completely different look. I like this kind of modern effect here with that olive green and the aqua. So then what I've done with this is simply used the cutting die from the set and die cut that, and then added it to the front of my card. Now, a couple of other things that I want to point out. I've got a really interesting background back here, and I'll show you how I did that. I do have the flower cluster up on foam tape. You guys maybe have seen my, hang on, my giant roll of Altenew foam tape. So this used to be a lot bigger, actually. I use a lot of foam tape, and I just really enjoy being able to pop this up and have it create a little bit of dimension. So let's take a look at the background of the card here and how to do that. And let's see, grab this card base here. And what I'm going to do, I'll set this one aside here. So for the front panel of my card, I've got this nice kind of halo effect. This is also from my blending tool and that olive green. And all I've done, ink this up really nicely. All I've done is working on my craft mat, just create a nice soft circle. So really pretty halo effect. And because I've got a nice big round blender, it's super easy to do, and I don't get any funny lines or, you know, any sharp edges on here. It's just this really cool look. Now this is looking pretty yellowy, so I'm going to add a little bit more of the Aqualicious on here, make it a little bit greener. So nice and soft, kind of halo effect. And then what I'm going to do is add my splatters on here. And to do this, I'm going to use the Altenew, one of the Altenew ink sprays. So this is a metallic shimmer ink spray. This is the Mountain Mist. Got a couple of these bottles, and they really do come in handy, not only for what you might technically think, of course, is you'd spritz this and you get a really fine misting. I like to use it not spritzing, but tapping. So that's going to give you bigger drops of color. You just fold this up here. So I've given this a good shake, and then what I'm going to do is take off the top portion of this. So I've just got this, I don't know what this thing is called, this little hose in here. Hold this up here and tap the color on. So I'm not going to get a fine misting like I would by spraying it the way you're supposed to spray it, but it does give me a little bit more control over where that color is going. So that was using the Mountain Mist ink spray. Now, because this is a shimmering ink, it's got some, I guess it would be mica in there, it will give a little bit of shimmer and shine when this dries. I have to clean off my hands and my craft mat quickly before I put something else in here. So all I need to do is let this dry. It won't take very long at all. And then I've got my background ready to go. And I can add my stamped and die cut element right on top. And then I'll have a card that looks like this. So again, super simple to do. Now the You've Got This is also from our Poppy stamp set. So that's all I need to do to add this in there. Quick and easy to do. Okay, so that is our first card project. And now the next one I want to show you is also using the layering technique with the stencil, but I'm going to do a little bit more dimension on there. So you'll notice that, let's see, this one, you just got the two colors. This one has some more depth with our flowers, and that is, of course, part of the stencil. So now what I'm going to do is just open this up so you can see how this folds out, and I'll show you how to do that. It's really simple. What I like with this is that when you've got a focal element that, maybe you want it to be part of a larger design on your card, you could simply plunk this right onto the front of a folded card, but I kind of like to have it be something that's going to be a little bit more unique. And it's also a nice design if you have sentiments like just believe in yourself, trust the journey, you've got this. Things that will read over a couple of panels. So this is a super easy way to create something that's a little bit different with your card fronts. But let's take a look at our flowers here. And I'll bring back my Misty. Hang on. It's underneath everything, of course. Sue said she was splattering that way and she thought of me. So thank you, Sue. That's nice. It's nice to hear. I'm not the only one tapping and splattering like this. It's a great way to give it a slightly different look, I think. Okay, so when we're talking about our stenciling, both of these flowers are using the same color and the same technique. So I'll demonstrate with this larger one here so that you can also see the leaves on there as well. So that's this flower here, kind of in the middle. And this is a nice one to have as an accent, a part of a larger kind of cluster of flowers, but it's also nice. Let me see, I think it's an example in here. Oh yeah, it's this card. I think this is just a really nice and simple kind of focal element that is easy to do, simple to look at, really gets the point across, and it's really a very effective design. So I quite like this little flower here. So again, I'm going to ink this one up with my obsidian. And then we're going to do some stencil layering. Okay, there we go. There. All righty. Dab that off. And put that guy over there. Okay. So now let's take a look at our coloring options here. And again, I'll point out, you could color this with any of your favorite coloring mediums, but we're going to take a look at our stencils here. And the colors that I want to use today, I've got 3 pinky reds that I wanted to play with. So I need 3 layers, kind of like the layering stamp sets that Altenew does so well. It's nice to have a variety that all kind of graduate from very pale to middle or medium tone to something brighter or more intense. So I've got pink pearl, I've got coral berry, and I've got ruby red. And that's going to give me this layering effect here. So you can see the pink pearl in the very background, the coral berry in the center, and then the ruby red, just those little highlight areas. And the stencil I need for this one is number 4. So I'm going to pop this down. You have to do a little bit of wiggling sometimes here. Pop this one down. And get my tape in here. So again, you can use, I'm using some washi tape that I'm like almost to the end of the roll. You can also use stencil tape or low tack, any kind of low tack tape. But you do, of course, want to be careful where you're putting the tape, even if it's low tack, because sometimes when you pull it off, it can pull off portions of your paper, maybe tear some of the paper. So just want to be a bit careful there. And I'm going to add some of my masking paper in here only because it will just make things look a lot clearer when we see the finished example, even though I was planning on die cutting this, or I did die cut this for my card project. Okay, so I've got the stencil secured in place, and I'm going to start with our pink pearl. And I'm using a different blending brush for this one. Looks like I could stand to clean this off, actually. So let me do that quickly. Use this for some orange colors too. So pinks and oranges. Do you guys have these blending brushes? I love these. I sent my mom a couple of them as a thank you gift. And I keep meaning to ask her if she's used them yet. She was really excited to get them. She has arthritis in her hands. So I was thinking this would be easier on her hands than the kind of blending brushes with the handle. So I need to, every time I think of this, I think, oh, I need to make a mental note next time I talk to her to see if she's used these yet, what she thinks of them. I find them easier on my hands, but I think if you have arthritis or issues with your hands, sometimes one little tool can just make everything a lot easier. So if I can recommend that to other folks, I would like to. Okay, so that is our first layer on here, kind of like we saw with the first design. So I've got all of my color in here. And then what I'll do is move over to the next portion of the stencil. So we already did this one. Now we're going to do this one. And then I just need to, once again, kind of do some scooting around. And what I like to do is use the flower center as my main orientation point, and then also kind of the scooping area of the stencil of the flower. So, patch everything back in here. And we'll go with our second color, which is going to be the coral berry. So I'll grab my brush and we'll add our second color on here. So again, just layering up those colors. Now you could also do this with a single color. So just keep intensifying that one single color. So if you don't have a whole lot of colors to work with, never fear. You can always get some nice layering effects with just one ink pad. Okay. So I'm going to lift this off. And there you can see my second layer. So I've got two beautiful shades on there. Okay, now my third portion of this same flower is this little area here. And you can also see, actually, I don't know. Well, there we go. I think you can see there's kind of a dividing line engraved into the stencil. So that also sort of helps when you're looking around for which area to use or which elements go together. So again, I'm going to orient this flower center and then pop this down. Christian says that these are great for my arthritic hands. Oh, that's good to hear, Christian. Thank you for telling me that. I would be curious to hear if other folks are also able or better able or more comfortable with using a blending tool like this. I just find that it is really comfortable, and I'm always looking out for my mom because she does a lot of crafting and a lot of card making, but sometimes things can get frustrating and can be painful if you have arthritis or any other joint or hand issues. It can be really frustrating and take away from the enjoyment of an activity. So any other tips, let me know. Okay, so this last one that I was doing was the ruby red. So let's take a look. Get my little die back in here and we will see how we did. Gently lifting this off, and there I've got my completed flower. So that was using our pink pearl coral berry, and then finally the ruby red. So all of those nice layers. Now, the other element we have here, of course, are those leaves. And the leaves, fortunately, are also on this same stencil. We've got a lot of ruby red going on over here on my stencil, so I'm going to kind of quickly clean this up, just using a damp baby wipe. And I will clean off my stencils for real when we're all done. But you can just dab off with a tissue or a cloth or something. So again, placing this down. So fortunately, I've got both of the leaf sides together, so I don't have to line up one and then line up another one. So this will be a little bit easy. And again, we'll do some masking here. Let's see, I want to mask off this part. And let's do this one here. All my little scraps of paper. Okay, now for my leaves, I'm going to use the Forest Glades for this one, and I'm going to go back to my green blending brush and simply ink this up. It's probably going to have a little bit of Aqualicious still on here. That's okay. A bit of olive too. I think we're fine with that. And again, just give a quick circular application in here. And then we'll see how we did. Get all of those out of the way and lift off our stencil. I love this. I love this so much. How easy is that? Really, really simple to do. So our three pinky reds are pink pearl, coral berry, ruby red, and then Forest Glades for the leaves. Forest Glades plus whatever else was still on my blending brush. But I just think that looks so pretty, so easy to do. So the card I wanted to show you here, I did this design, which is right here, and then I did exactly the same color combination with the smaller flower. So the two of those can nest together really easily. There's a lot of foliage on that stamp set, and so I just stamped them in black because I wanted it to be where the flowers were really standing out and not have too much color on here. And then I've just got the sentiment stamped on here. I did a little bit more splattering with the mountain mist on there, and then just added my card, or added the fold to my card. So let me find, here's a blank card. I'll show you how to do this fold. It's really easy. Probably you all know how to do this, but just in case you don't. So I'm going to start with my folded card. I've got the fold going here. And then what I'm going to do is just take the front flap and kind of roll it up so that the front side meets the fold. And then I'm just going to fold this down. I had a bone folder handy. Do I have one handy? I don't think I do. Usually I've got one handy, but a bone folder can also come in handy just to create that score line there. And then you've got your kind of a gatefold style of card. Really, really easy to do. And then if you wanted to add a circular shape or a die cut shape on there, like I've done here, it creates a really nice impact. One thing to keep in mind is that whatever is on the back here will show. So you do want to keep that in mind. Solid cardstock or double-sided pattern paper can do the trick. Ta-da! So again, all the sentiments are also from our stamp set today. Okay, move this aside and then let's see what else we have here. So this card that I want to share with you today is also using our ink blending. And the other thing about this, though, is that we're not using the outline stamp. So because this flower is just on its own, doesn't have any extra portions around it, that you can use just the blending, stencil blending, without any of the outline stamp. So this flower is the same as this flower, but with two different looks. You can get some really different looks here. Okay, so let's take a look. I'm going to move this over here. And the colors that I want to use today, I love these three colors together. Chamomile, Snapdragon, and Marigold. And let's see, I gotta get my tape off all of my stencils. And this is going to be using stencil number 2. So I've got a lot of leaf stencils on here. I'm going to use this leaf stencil, but I also want to show you with the flower. So here's our base layer, middle, and top layer. So just like we would do if we were working with a stamped image, I'm going to set this down and secure it in place. And of course, plan to die cut this. So I'm not too worried about masking things off, but I'm going to do it just for the interest of having things look okay for you. Okay, there we go. And I'm going to start with my lightest color, which is the chamomile, and my blending brush, which I put over here. Now this has really got some ruby red on it, so let me clean this off. And I'm cleaning it off by just rubbing off some excess onto this scrap piece of paper here. And then we'll start with the chamomile. And this was something I wasn't sure if it would work or if it would look okay. So I was really pleased to find out that it did. So I'm going to come in with a pretty light application of that chamomile. It's a nice, soft, light orange. Okay. Pull these off. And there you can see the first layer of my stenciled flower. So now the next side is going to be moving into this middle layer. And again, because I don't have those black stamped lines as my guide. So what I want to do is, again, orient with the center of the flower and kind of do some wiggling around from there. Okay, I think I've got this in place. And then we'll move on to our second color, which is the Snapdragon. Okay, I've got lots of paper here. Here's one more for good measure. Okay, so I've got my Snapdragon, which is slightly darker than the chamomile. And it's exactly the same process. Inking up my blending brush. And I've got some open area here, so we'll start to see some of these nice and rich layers of color. I really love how Altenew does this. I love the whole layering concept. I just think it gives such a beautiful and really completely different style to stamping and to card making. Okay, our second layer there. And then let's have a look at the third layer. Let's see how this turned out. So here I've got my second layer. And then I'll move on for the third layer. All my little bits of tape. And again, orienting the center, the flower center, and then just sort of scooching around to see if I can make sure that those outer petals are doing okay. All right. Tape that down. There we go. And our final layer will be the beautiful marigold. I'm not normally an orange person. Like I don't wear orange. I'm not naturally sort of drawn to, it's not one of my favorite colors, but I love this grouping. And there's a fourth color in here in one of those little 4Z sets. I just absolutely love these for flowers. I think they're so versatile and so usable. Okay, so marigold will be our third layer. Just a great flower color, really cheerful, great for spring and summer, but the colors also look wonderful in autumn if you're doing any kind of autumnal floral stamping. Okay, so there's our marigold. And now let's have a look. Underneath it all, you can see our little stenciled flowers. So minus the outline, then all you need to do is just die cut it and you will have a flower that looks like this. So the die cut will give you a nice white outline going around there, and it gives you just a beautiful soft image without that outline. Now you've also got the leaves in here too. And the leaves, or the leaf cluster, is on the same stencil. And it's this one right here. So I'm going to dab off some of our beautiful marigold from the stencil. And let's see, pop this down here. And we'll take a look at this. Now, this is only one color that I'm using on here, and I think I used Forest Glades. So let me find my Forest Glades again. Here we go. Or actually, let me do Frayed Leaf. Let's do Frayed Leaf with this one. I love Altenew's greens. So I've got a nice collection of Altenew greens. I like the olive, but I have to say the Forest Glades and the Frayed Leaf are kind of my go-tos for leaf colors. Okay, so this is the Frayed Leaf. We'll blend this through here. And here we go. When you see this, it won't look like much, but when you get your cutting die, let's see if I've got it handy. When you've got your cutting die and you place this on here, then run it through your die cutting machine, and you will have a piece. Hang on, I've got it here. That looks like this. So then you've got your flower and you've got your foliage piece. And these can just be used however you want them to go. Now, one thing you don't have is any detail in the flower center. So as you can see on the stamping, so as I mentioned, this is this same flower. Looks really, really different. But there's some detail kind of drawing here in the center of the flower. Nothing to say that you couldn't grab a fine tip marker and do your own detailing in there if you wanted to. You could also, though, as I've done, just add a little gemstone in here, and that'll give you, a bit of dimension in here. But also, you could leave this completely open if you wanted to. Now, I've just got the one flower on here and two of the leaf clusters, but you could really make, let's see, if I tuck this in here, you could really make a nice grouping of flowers in here as well. So lots and lots of different things that you could do with this, but super simple to do with or without the outline. Now I was trying this, was experimenting today to see what one of the other flowers might look like. So one of the larger ones. Now this is this guy here. So the larger stamp that has those leaves. You could definitely do the stenciling with the leaves. You could also, because the cutting die will have the leaf area, you could also do some pretty simple fussy cutting around this if you wanted to as well. So keep that in mind. You've got lots of options with these. I just love this set. I think it is so versatile and so easy to use. Okay, so we have just a little bit of time left. I've got one more idea to share with you. I always have lots of ideas to share with you. So I've got one more that I can squeeze in today, I think, and that's this one. Very, very simple, very easy to do, but I don't want to leave out the option of having a great stamp set that you can just stamp, color, and be on your way. So what I wanted to share with you here is using the water brush markers. And the last live that I did earlier this month, we were talking about water brush markers, and I think a lot of people have interest in these, but it's always nice to see some new ideas. So the watercolor brush markers that I'm using for this card are from the Winter Wonderland set. So you're not limited to just Winter Wonderland, Wonderland or otherwise cards with this set. But you've got some really nice floral colors in here. Ruby Red Rouge, Citrus Burst. You've got some nice greens for your leaves too. So this is one that I really like to have on hand. Okay, so let me stamp this flower just quickly. And I'm going to stamp this onto some watercolor cardstock because I'm going to use some watery medium. And pop this down, find my stamp. Okay, and I'll just place this here. And again, I'm going to use my obsidian black. Now you could also stamp this and heat emboss. You could heat emboss it with a metallic, like a gold would be really pretty. I also really like to do this where I stamp it with the obsidian black and then I just put clear embossing powder over the top of it. And it gives you that nice crisp black outline, but it also the raised edges that hold in a watery medium. Oops, I'm going to get a little bit more pressure here. Alrighty, so I'll pop this up. And I've got a couple of colors that I have on hand. Now the other thing I'm going to use is a jar of water, and I've got my Altenew water brush. So it's not a water brush marker, it's just the water brush. You can fill the barrel with water. I just generally tend to use it as a paintbrush. I'm also using my craft mat here, and what I'm going to do is color my flower. I'm going to color this with watery rouge. So instead of coming out and using my water brush marker to color this in, I'm going to put a bit of the color onto my craft mat. And then I'm going to take my water brush, add some water to this little puddle so I can dilute the color here. So you've got not only the colors that are in the water brush marker set, but you can dilute the colors, which is really nice, so that you've got even some more versatility. I like versatility with my stamps and my supplies. I like to have things that I can use for lots of different occasions and in lots of different ways. So we have an investment in our crafting supplies, so it's good to have lots of different ways to use them. Okay, so I'm just scribbling in the color here. And then I'm going to add some ruby red in the flower center. Again, just working a little bit on my craft palette. And pop this down in the center. I'm leaving some white showing here because I kind of like this sort of sketchy look. But I definitely want my ruby red to be the focal in there. And then let's see, I've got emerald and I've got lagoon. Lagoon is kind of a bluish green. I'm going to take emerald here. Same thing, scribble it onto my craft mat. Get my brush here, maybe clean it a little bit. Let's see. And the great thing about diluting this color on your craft mat before using it is that you can then create even more layers if you decide to. So you've got some chances to add in darker shading if you want to, but I like it being a bit light on here as well. Okay, now let me take a bit of this ruby red and come along some of these sketchy lines on here, some of these darker areas where the petal folds over. Let me pick up a bit of this. And you can really have a nice play with this. So keep in mind too, even with all of the layering, the inking, the blending, you can also do something really simple with your markers, your watercolors, your water brush markers, quick and easy to do. And again, if you were doing heat embossing, that would also be really pretty too, and would hold in any of your watery medium, which is also nice. So again, for my card here, I've got, now all of this color is nice and dry. You can see I've got a little bit more of an orange hint in there, which is nice. And then the Just Believe in Yourself, that is also from the same stamp set, just a little bit of jute twine wrapped around here, and then I've popped it onto a craft card base. So we have done 4 cards together, going from, oh, just look at the difference between the 2 different effects you can get here. I just think this is so cool. You can get so many different looks. You can get so many different styles. So much that you can do with this set, whether you're going with just the stamp set or the stamps and the dies or the stencils or the whole shebang. It's just a lot of fun. All righty, I'm going to change up my camera here. And whoops, where are we? Here we go. All right, so that I can see you again, or you can see me anyway. And I'll whiz through again the card projects that we did tonight. So we went from super simple layering, 1 layer designs, and then also some fun splattering on here too. Then we went into more layers. Sue, I think you're right. It's a Z fold card. You were right. Z or an S fold card. So some fun ways to create a spotlight effect for your stamping. Then you can skip the outline and just stencil away if you want to. That's an easy one to do. And you can also use any of your coloring mediums to simply paint in one of the stamped images. So this is using, oops, I've got a big pile of stuff over here behind me, using our Poppy arrangement stamp set. So again, lots of stamps on here, lots of really nice sentiments. And of course you can mix and match with any of your other Altenew sentiments as well. I've got to find my die set. The die set that goes along that makes life a whole lot easier, especially if you want to create some of these leaf accents to use. Super simple to do with the dies. And then, of course, our Poppy arrangement stencil set, which has the 4 stencils that will help you to create any of the layering that you want to do. So we were working mostly with our dye-based inks, but also those water brush markers can come in handy. Our blending tools. Let's see, what else were we playing with? That was pretty much it. The Obsidian Black ink pad, of course. But lots and lots of fun things that you can do with this collection. It is not a new collection, so I was kind of thinking, well, maybe some folks already have this. Maybe you have it in your stash and forgot about it. Like that can happen sometimes. Or maybe you saw it a couple of years ago when it came out, and it's just a nice, good refresher, a nice classic design, I think. So I am very, very happy to have been with you for the past hour. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you to Altenew for this chance for us to get together. And thank you to our lovely moderator for keeping us on track and popping in all of those links. It is very much appreciated. So this will be my last live of the year, and hoping to come back and see you some more for some more lives in 2023. Until then, Have a wonderful rest of your day. Have a wonderful rest of your week. If you are celebrating the holidays this winter, then happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, happy winter solstice to you, happy Kwanzaa, whatever it is you're celebrating. If you're celebrating one, two, or all of them, please do have a safe and healthy start into the new year. And I will see you again in 2023. Okay, take care, everyone. Very, very nice to see everyone tonight. And I do wish you all the very best for the rest of the year. Take care, then, everyone.